Welcome to Grand Prix, your go-to channel for the fastest updates in Formula One. We've got 3 hot stories for you, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay ahead of the pack. Let's get started. Gabriel Bortoleto stunned the Formula One world with an exceptional performance at the Hungarian Grand Prix, securing his best result yet by finishing 6th at the demanding Hungaroring circuit. The young Brazilian not only caught the attention of fans and commentators, but also received high praise from none other than Fernando Alonso, his manager and, interestingly, his on-track rival. Alonso, who finished just ahead of Bortoleto in 5th place, was quick to commend his protégé's talent and composure. In post-race interviews, the two-time world champion didn't hold back in his praise, calling Bortoleto the best rookie of this generation. According to Alonso, Bortoleto's ability to avoid mistakes while consistently pushing the limits is what sets him apart from his peers. His words carried significant weight, not only because of his legendary status in the sport, but also because of the context. They had just fought for position on track, and Alonso came out ahead, barely. Alonso even added a remark that sparked discussions beyond racing circles. He suggested that if Bortoleto were British and had finished 6th in a Sauber, he would be on the front page of every newspaper the next morning. The implication was clear. National bias plays a strong role in shaping a driver's media exposure and career trajectory. The comment quickly gained traction online, with many fans debating whether Bortoleto's nationality had limited his recognition. Had he been from a more prominent motorsport market, would he already be hailed as the next big thing? This 6th-place finish brought Bortoleto to 14 points in the championship standings, placing him 17th overall. While not earth-shattering on paper, the context makes it one of the most impressive performances of the season. The Sauber package has consistently underperformed in 2025, and yet, in the hands of Bortoleto, it looked competitive. His ability to manage tire wear, maintain pace under pressure, and defend skillfully against seasoned veterans was nothing short of masterful. For Brazilian fans, the race marked a moment of hope and pride. Since Felipe Massa's departure from the sport, Brazil has been searching for its next Formula One star, someone to carry the legacy of Senna, Piquet, and Fittipaldi into a new era. Gabriel Bortoleto's performance in Hungary may not have rewritten the championship standings, but it certainly sent a message. He's not just passing through Formula One, he's here to stay. Adding a personal touch to the weekend was the dynamic between Bortoleto and Alonso. Despite being competitors on the track, their off-track relationship remains close. After the race, during the media interviews, Alonso couldn't resist teasing the young driver. Smiling as Bortoleto approached, Alonso jokingly said, "We were a lot faster than you," poking fun at their close battle on track. The lighthearted jab highlighted not only the mutual respect between them, but also the mentorship Alonso continues to provide. In a sport often marked by egos and rivalries, this kind of camaraderie is rare and refreshing. Bortoleto's humility, raw talent, and steady progression have already earned him a fan base, but more importantly, they've earned him the respect of one of the sport's greatest drivers. Whether or not the media around the world catch on, those watching closely already see what's happening. Gabriel Bortoleto isn't just another rookie. He's a rising force, and the Hungarian Grand Prix was just the beginning. Do you agree with Alonso's statement? Would the global press have reacted differently if Bortoleto were from another country? And most importantly, are we witnessing the rise of Brazil's next great champion? Let us know your thoughts. Per Gunter AO ChatGPT, one issue that's becoming more and more frequent in Formula One is the way rain affects the race weekends. In the past, wet weather races were some of the most exciting and memorable moments in the sport. Today, however, it's almost expected that if it rains, especially if it rains heavily, there won't be much of a race at all. We've been seeing repeated delays, red flags, rolling starts behind the safety car, and hours of waiting, often with little to no real racing under wet conditions. And that trend is starting to frustrate both fans and drivers alike. The most recent example came during the Belgian Grand Prix, where the race start was delayed by nearly an hour and a half due to rainfall. Once again, wet weather disrupted what could have been an intense and dramatic race. But this time, Max Verstappen didn't hold back his frustration. The reigning world champion publicly criticized race control, stating that decisions like this are ruining what used to be legendary wet weather battles in Formula One. In his words, the sport is losing one of its core thrills, watching the world's best drivers tackle the unpredictable challenges of a soaked racetrack. Verstappen said in an interview that the race could have started hours earlier. He mentioned that all drivers have already discussed the importance of being cautious under those conditions, adjusting their driving, and being aware of the risks. But waiting until the track was nearly dry before starting the race was, in his view, an unnecessary delay. According to Max, Formula One needs to make a decision. Either accept that wet races are part of the sport and embrace the challenge, or be honest and admit that they won't race in the rain anymore. He went further by pointing out that exciting wet races are still possible even with the current generation of cars and rules. As proof, he referenced the British Grand Prix from just a few weeks ago, which saw thrilling racing despite varying weather conditions. For Verstappen, the key is not about pushing drivers into dangerous conditions, but trusting their ability to manage the risks and letting the racing happen, even if it's messy and chaotic at times, because that's what makes it real. His comments sparked a wider conversation in the paddock. Several teams and drivers quietly share similar concerns. There's growing dissatisfaction with how Formula One handles rain-affected sessions. The fear is that by becoming overly cautious, the sport is losing some of its raw edge, the very element that made so many past races unforgettable. Of course, safety remains a top priority, and no one is arguing that drivers should be sent out in dangerous conditions blindly. But the balance between caution and spectacle is starting to tilt too far in one direction. In the end, this isn't just about one race or one delay. It's a reflection of a broader trend. As the sport evolves, so do the expectations. But there's a fine line between protecting the drivers and sterilizing the competition. Verstappen's blunt remarks might not lead to immediate change, but they do highlight a sentiment that many within the sport are starting to feel. Formula One needs to remember what made it great in the first place. Let the drivers race, even in the rain. Lewis Hamilton's weekend at the Hungarian Grand Prix was, without a doubt, one of the most difficult of his recent career. After a disappointing qualifying session that saw him start from a distant 12th place on the grid, Hamilton failed to mount any meaningful recovery during Sunday's race, despite competing on a track where he has traditionally performed well and secured multiple victories throughout his career. Saturday's post-qualifying interview gave fans and analysts a rare glimpse into Hamilton's current mindset, and it wasn't encouraging. The seven-time world champion appeared visibly dejected and even went as far as questioning his value within the Ferrari team, referring to himself as useless and suggesting, perhaps in a moment of raw honesty, that the team might consider replacing him if they wanted better results. His frustration was amplified by the contrast with teammate Charles Leclerc, who managed to secure pole position, clearly showcasing the potential of the Ferrari car in the right hands. Sunday's race only added to Hamilton's disappointment. He remained far from the points and failed to show the race pace that once defined his career. During his post-race interview with Sky Sports, Hamilton again looked emotionally drained. When asked directly whether he was considering leaving Ferrari, he responded by stating clearly that he wasn't, at least not yet. "I still love racing. I still love Ferrari," he said, promising that he would be on the grid for the Dutch Grand Prix after the summer break. Despite his emotional tone, Hamilton did try to highlight a few positives. He acknowledged that the car had improved significantly over the last few races, even if he personally had not been able to extract its full potential. "It's a shame I couldn't understand it better this weekend," he admitted, "but I'll keep trying to get everything out of it." However, it was Hamilton's final remarks that stirred the most speculation. He stated that there were many things happening behind the scenes that were troubling him, although he stopped short of explaining what those things were. His cryptic comment immediately fueled discussions among fans and pundits alike, with many wondering whether internal team politics, technical disagreements, or strategic decisions were starting to wear down the legendary driver. The contrast between his current form and his championship-winning years is striking. Hamilton is no longer dominating the grid as he once did, and while Ferrari had hoped his presence would bring renewed energy and momentum, the reality has been far more complex. The team's decision to bring him on was seen as bold and visionary, pairing experience with youth in the form of Leclerc, but the chemistry and performance haven't yet yielded the expected results. As the season progresses and pressure mounts, questions will naturally arise about Hamilton's future. Will he finish the season with Ferrari and start 2026 in red? Or if the downward trend continues, will we witness an unexpected departure before the new regulations kick in? One thing is clear. Hamilton's love for racing hasn't faded, but something is clearly bothering him within the walls of Maranello. The question is, will those issues be resolved in time to save this partnership? Or are we witnessing the beginning of an early exit from the Scuderia? What's your take? Do you think Hamilton will remain with Ferrari for the next season? Or will the unresolved tensions behind the scenes push him toward an early exit? Let us know in the comments.